next question is, how well is it working so far?
It's working.
But you've had it for the last 2 days working?
Yeah, we've had it for the last 2 days. Oh, and look, I think that the largest difficulty we've had is everyone getting used to it. You know, where we've positioned them on the boat initially is probably not in the correct spot, and we're working as quickly as we can to, you know, customise the positioning of these things and where the skippers sit, which is all slightly different, and whether some hike and some don't hike, and how far it is and how long their forearms are. And, you know, it's hard. On the 45s with only 5 crew, these boats are very difficult to sail. So everyone's got a big job to do, and really the only person who can operate this thing is the skipper. So he not only has to steer the boat, which is, I think, concentration-wise very demanding, because, you know, not only got to steer it, they've got to keep the heel and trim and that windward hull just skimming the water to be getting the Optimus out, let alone any of the other boat placement bits and pieces, and look at this thing. So look, it's getting very much like Formula One. You know, we have a steering wheel that's got 900 functions on it. It's all part of the technology of you know, what's required to sail
What
these
you've
boats.
just talked about there is really about people and them on board getting used to it. What about the actual infrastructure of the system?
The system has been worked. We've had an aerial failure on the committee boat, but that didn't drop out the system for the race boats. So part of our system dropped out.
So the system's working, people have just got to get used to it.
Yeah, the system is working. The boats are being tracked very accurately, and that's been consistent across 2 days. So that's, if the boats weren't being tracked consistently, we would have an issue. The rest of the user friendliness of the system is stuff we need to work on as we write the software around this. Bear in mind, you know, the packaging of all of this starts with the design of the computer boards and the waterproof housing. This is quite an undertaking.
And each boat will be different. I don't know, have it in a different way.
Oh, well, that's only the positioning of that implement.
Typically for the 45s, how wide are those boundaries going to be?
The last couple of days we've ranged between 600 and 700 metres, and obviously it depends on the length of the course. But you know, John can speak more about that. But we have looked at gates in the middle of the course, which is a traditional way of, you know, bringing boats back into the centre, whereas, you know, we're putting effectively a gate right down the side of the course and give them freedom in the middle of the course, and, you know, we're finding that's a better solution.
I think also as the testing goes on, obviously the windier it gets, the wider that gate's going to have to be, and we've got to determine what that is, and as it gets lighter, the gate can get closer. The goal of the gate is to keep them in the center of the course, but also to give them enough room to try and tactically pass each other, so there's a balance in that.
Can you describe some of the course shapes you've been running?
Yeah, for the most part, the first day we started out with a start line in the middle of the course. It's about a 1.5 mile beat, and as Ian indicated, we had we bring them back into the center, having them go through the start line, and then down to a leeward gate. We tried a few offset courses where we go to the windward mark and we put in a offset or reach mark, and we have a lot of work to still do on that, as to find out what location is best. There's the question of how long that is as well. What sails do you challenge them by not having them put up the big sails on that first part of that reach, or make it hard enough they have to make a decision? And obviously as the wind increases or decreases, that placement of that mark is a challenge. And then we also looked at taking that mark out of the play. We moved the start line right up to 0.3 of a nautical mile to the windward mark, and that seemed to get all the boats to the windward mark at the same time, which is part of our goal. and then had a longer beat down. Had them go back up to the windward again and then finish at the gate. But again, we've got a long way to go as far as trying to figure out what's going to work best.
And it's going to vary depending on the wind strength. You know, a light air day course is going to look very different to a windy air day course. I think it's what we're seeing. The attacking angles and driving angles of these boats vary a lot depending on the wind strength. And, you know, one of the interesting things to see about giving the boats the opportunity to explore the boundaries more and keep them away from the centre of the course is that a little leverage can turn into a big gain by, you know, just a couple of knot more breeze can almost, you know, if they can lift the hull and come away 10 degrees, it's almost like a double in V&G. So what might look like a big lead can turn into a loss very quickly. You know, in conditions like variable conditions we're seeing out here. So the emphasis on downwind sailing is becoming apparent, and you know, the short beat and the long run, it seems to be a nice recipe.
And John, picking up on what Ian's talking about, going ahead to the crystal ball and 72, I mean, if you're going to be out on Cascade or whatever, when you've got the ocean, you can go as wide as you like. Will there be limitations at San Francisco?
I think there will be some limitations as to the size, but I actually think that the footprint in San Francisco is big enough that we'll be able to definitely get the 72s in there. And I think we will use the corridor or the boundaries to try and create that arena.
Will the size of the harbour restrict the boundaries rather than being off Sydney or outside the Hauraki Gulf here, where you can have the boundary as wide as you want?
Yeah, we've got right now a track that's probably 4.5 miles from the bottom to the top, and you can probably, in San Francisco, without too much difficulty, go 2 miles wide. Yeah. And with what we're doing here, that would easily fit within that. Now, realizing the 72s are going to push on that, but I think it'll still give us that arena. And whether that was in San Francisco or in Sydney, I think we'd still have the same box.
Can you expand on the role of the jet ski umpires? What exactly are they doing and who do they communicate with?
Currently, they're communicating to the booth, which has 2 umpires in it currently, and that is definitely in development. And they're not only are they a backup in case there is some type of failure, but they're also just a way to double check to make sure things are as they appear. And it gives the guys or girls in the booth the opportunity to go, hey, something looked a little funny there, what did you see? And they can get that feedback.
And they're there to communicate potential issues as they're coming, you know, if they're following in tight proximity to the racing yachts, they will see a potential, you know, issue developing between the 2 yachts. So they are forewarning the booth. That's part of
How do they communicate with the booth?
By radio.
But there's no communication to the boats from the jet skis?
No.
Yeah.
And we're doing a lot of experimentation with how that radio, we've got helmets of various shapes and sizes and voice activated and noise cancelling and everything else. It's a bit of a test bench every day with the umpires.